Yes, well, hello everybody, and thank you for having me back on. I do remember several of you asked to have me speak about this particular topic. And there's so many of you, I can't see all of you, but I know there's many that I've seen before, and some of you I know. So hello to all. Right, how did I come across it? It's just the way it happens. Somebody talks to me about it, and I sort of look at it and think, oh, it's interesting. And then I drop it again. It's just another system. It's just another thing to look at and another perspective. But it keeps on coming back. It keeps on coming back, and it gets more and more interesting because over the years, and I've been with this now for I think about eight years, I've realized how incredibly, uncannily precise this information is. It's not like astrology where you're interpreting anything. It is extremely, extremely precise. So, and while I'm doing this, I'm also letting other people in because you can't, Pat, right? So
for some reason I cannot.
It just grew on me. And then I spent a lot of time with I would call him my human design buddy, Lawrence. And we just thrived on exchanging senses of how we feel, how we take life in, how we experience ourselves, and how we experience the other. And I think in a way, we were living in the same house for quite some time. I don't think we could have managed without being so precise about the energies and the knowledge of human design. It really helped us a lot, and it was a fascinating journey, and it doesn't stop. This knowledge is so vast and so deep, and it's not for everybody. But if you're hearing this for the first time, maybe you sort of listen to it, maybe you drop it again, it'll come back to you. It'll grow on you because it is meant exactly for the times we're living in. So let me see.
I'd like to make sure that everyone make sure that you're muted, please.
I've put together a little bit of a presentation, and what we're going to start with is change. We know that everything is change. We know that if we don't change, for example, if we stop growing, there's only growth or there's death. There's no status quo. So it's all about change. Now, somehow the human being is afraid of change. But change, it really only it doesn't tell us whether it's good or bad. It just tells us it's change. And fear also doesn't tell us whether it's good or bad. It's just fear. It tells us there's something coming that we don't know. And we can react to that by being terrified and afraid, or we can react to that by being really excited about something new that's coming. Now, let me share this. And I have to rearrange my desktop here so that I can see what I'm doing. This knowledge came to Ra Uru in 1987, so it's pretty recent. And he received this, it was a storm, blizzard on the island of Ibiza in 1987, and he didn't sleep or eat for 8 days and 8 nights, and neither did his dog. And it was just this vast transmission from an intelligence. He calls it the voice, but he says it wasn't really something that he could hear. It was a download, a transmission from an intelligence far superior to what he had ever experienced. Now, Ra had done a lot of experimentation with consciousness, which is probably why he was picked for this transmission. So the reason why this came in, this knowledge, is because we need it. We need it right at this time. Change, mutation is basically change. And what we've had is millions of years of very, very little change. Nothing much happening. The human being more or less the same over centuries. You could almost say eons. And then in 1781, something changed in the background frequency. And the momentum that is building up for change is just growing and growing and growing. And we will hit the pinnacle of that change in 2027. And I think many of us are experiencing change and the acceleration of change. We've just noticed that in the last years. So 2027, February 2027 is when we hit the pinnacle, and then things will calm down again over the next 1,300 years. So again, a time scale that is far beyond our life experience. So it's in our life experience of 60, 80, 100 years, it's difficult to see the overall happenings. But we are here, living here today, because we were built for this. We were made for this. And maybe I know several of my friends, and maybe some of you too, and whether you know it or not, we have this sense of this is what we're made for. So in 2020, I had that sense of, yes, now it's finally happening, that for which I was made for, that for which I came to Earth. And so what is happening is a mutation, and a mutation is a genetic change. It's in our DNA, the change that is happening. So let's see, we're kind of click to the next slide. For millions of years, we've had what started with the Cro-Magnon man, basically the seven-centered humans with 7 centers as we are still taught today. Cro-Magnon was the earlier bit, and then the next 1.5 million years is all of this. And in 1781, a genetic change started to happen, and some of the people born after 1781 had a different physiology, a different circuit board on the level of chakras, of energy systems. Sometimes the mutation is also quite physical. So in 1781, our ancestors gave birth to us, and we are Homo sapiens in transitus. We are a transitional human being that is here to enable the next form called raves to come forth. So we are built here to give birth to these new beings, and these new beings called raves will start to be born after February 2027. Not every baby that will be born will be this new kind of rave, but slowly over time, we will die out. And when the last Homo sapiens in transitus dies out, that's when the whole world will be completely different. So who are we? The difference here of the human beings before 1781 and us as transitional human beings is that we have 9 centers. And not only is it that we have 9 centers, that's just the most obvious. It's also that we have a different life experience from the people before us. And some of these centers work differently. And the connections that are there between the centers are also different from what was there before us. And the raves will again have a different fundamental circuit board, the way the energy flows through our body. I don't have an exact drawing of what it's going to look like, but they still will have 9 centers. Most of the changes happen within this center, which is the emotional center or the solar plexus center. And some of the changes will happen in how these channels work and in how some of these centers operate. So we can compare this change to what happened eons ago when there was the Neanderthal man, and he lived happily for years and years, quite steadily. And at some point, the Neanderthal man started getting ready to give birth to something quite different, the Cro-Magnon. And then there's this time where the Cro-Magnon and the Neanderthal, which are really quite different species, live together at the same time. And eventually the Neanderthal man became extinct. And this is what's happening here for us. We will be living at the same time with a being that functions quite differently from who we are. Here's just another picture of the movement from the 7-centered being to the 9-centered being. So now all the 9-centered beings are, all of us who are alive are 9-centered beings or transitional human beings. So let's get down to what is absolutely essential for us to know so that we will thrive through these extraordinary times. And we can all thrive and we can all be in joy and happiness. It's actually a fantastic time if we know how to operate correctly. And if you downloaded your chart, what we're going to look at today is only 2 things: your strategy and your inner authority. That's all we really need to know. Everything else is absolutely fascinating, but this is what we're going to focus on. So your strategy, it will say your strategy up here, and it will say your inner authority here. And I do want to give you a sense of how deep and vast this knowledge is. So we're talking about a genetic mutation. Now, Ra got information about the beginning of the world. He got information about the cosmos, and he knew that not in his lifetime would he ever be able to share all the knowledge that he did receive, because it's a download. It's not mental. It's packages of information. So the genetic, just, you don't need to look at this in detail. It's just so that you understand that within this body graph, there's definitions of your genetic makeup and the genetic makeup of the background frequency. So it goes all the way down to codons. So in 2027, the thing that's going to happen is a shift in the background frequency. And the background frequency is is it's something that goes through every nook and cranny, goes through every cell and every atom. You can sort of liken it to a fish in water. The fish isn't really aware of the water, and the water can change over time. So we are in this background frequency. We're not really aware of it, but we can, if we are sensitive enough, we can feel into what that frequency is. And I think especially in these times where the background frequency is changing, if I think back to what it felt like to be alive 50 years ago, it felt very different. And I can be nostalgic about it and melancholic about it and yearn for things to be the way they were when I was 50, but that's not the point. The point is that we move forward and ensure thriving for all of us, thriving for the transitional human beings and thriving for the new children, the raves. So human design, this information is necessary for survival and for taking correct decisions. It's not about right or wrong. It's about operating correctly and knowing how to take a decision that is correct for me, which is different from taking a decision that is correct for anybody else. So we ourselves, as the background frequency is changing, we ourselves will not change. We are the same, but we are operating in a different environment. The ancient ones, if you were on my talk when I talked about the information handed down from the people of the far north, they said the calendar as we know it is coming to an end. And of course, we have no idea what that meant. And now we are starting to grasp what it meant. It doesn't mean an apocalypse. You know, you can create your own personal apocalypse, but for me, it's not that at all. It's fun, it's exciting, and there's a mission here for us to do what we need to do. So the newborn children, the rave children, will begin to be very, very different. So one of the things that will change is our society has been built on bargains. So bargains are things that, you know, bargains. If you cook for me, I will love you. If you give me money, I will give you insurance. So all of the institutions, all of the systems are bargains. The government is a bargain, and we will take care of you if you vote for us. The educational system is a bargain. Marriage is a bargain. The food chain is a bargain. The medical system is a bargain. All of these institutions, all of these bargains are starting to crumble. And Rao Rui died in 2010, but he already, back then, to him it was very clear, very obvious that all of this is crumbling. And today, I think it's really not hard to see all this homeschooling that is happening, all this fuss about governments and which one's right and which one's wrong. And this is because the bargain is breaking. What's also going to change is what we are fearful about. So in the past, we were fearful of fear of failure. We were afraid of failing in exams. We were afraid of failing in our careers. That's going to go away. We're not going to be afraid of failing in our success in our career or exams. What's coming in is the fear of the unknown. Now, again, fear of the unknown, there's no need to be afraid of the unknown if we have faith. And if we can be excited about changes, excited about, oh, there's something new. I don't know what it is, and I'm really excited about. And I know you've all been talking about Psalm 23, where it says, fear no evil. So don't create your own apocalypse. Don't be afraid of evil. Be excited about the changes that are happening. It's not about good or bad. It's about changes. And however they happen, whatever the construct is of how we think about it, it's meant to happen. It's all meant to happen so that there is a genetic mutation. So fear was used to control others, and fear was used by creating myths and fairy tales, and all of that is outdated. There's a lot of talk about telling your children the truth and don't make up stories about Santa Claus or fairy tales. And we're moving to people living their own truth, people being responsible for this themselves, not going to an institution to ask, what should I do about my health? What should I do about my education? It's about living your own truth. And the way Ra expressed it was, he talked about enlightened selfishness. So there's something about, this is the way I do it. This is correct for me. And you might already be experiencing this in people around you. They will do it their own way. It's not about us being a team. It's about I'm doing it correctly for myself. You do it correctly for yourself. And it's also about integrity. It's, I am looking for the integrity within myself so that I can operate in a way that is correct for me. Now, the seven-centered being didn't need to do that, but we are this transitional being. We need to move to that integrity and finding the truth that is within us, rather than listening to gurus and institutions and governments and politicians and doctors. It's the inner truth, the inner integrity that matters now. So we are very much more and more concerned with ourselves. We're much more concerned with our sovereignty. And there's all these classes about being sovereign and not being dependent on the state. That's part of what we're shifting into. Yes. So if anything sounds scary, it means that you are afraid of the unknown. And that's absolutely not necessary. Find the faith. So the way it used to be, the way we used to connect was as a team and as one-on-one bargains or bigger bargains, and also through sexual attraction. So in the last few hundred years, there was a lot of talk about love, and every song was about love. Before that, it wasn't so much so. And maybe you can already see that this is slowly disappearing. And one of the things that will happen is, because the bargain between us humans and the animals is changing, is that the new children will never eat meat, and they shouldn't eat meat because they cannot digest meat. So if there are brave children, they should never be forced to eat meat. And most likely it will come in a natural way, it will develop in a natural way. The mammals, the way Rao Rahu described it, the mammals won't be available anymore in quantities. They won't die out, but they won't be available in the quantities that we have now. And he said, I don't know how it's going to happen. There might be a pandemic or something, but there certainly won't be the quantities of mammals. Now, fish and fowl will stay the same. they're not changing. But the mammals, the structure, the design of the mammals are changing. Yes, the changes in regards to mind and consciousness. So after once Cro-Magnon man, or the human 7th-century being, as they lived, they developed strategy and logic to survive. They developed intellect. They developed patterns, statistics. It was very much a mental sphere, a calculating sphere of, if I do this, then that will happen. And we are moving to a very different experience of life, one which is receptive. It's wide, it's a wider perspective. It's about awareness rather than logic. It's about inner truth rather than that controlled thinking. It's also extremely important what we learn until 2027, because we will not have the same access to information. I mean, the information that we have, the access to information that we have at the moment is humongous. You know, we can Google anything and we can connect with all over the world with anybody with our cell phones, and we can gather so much knowledge and so much wisdom and so much information. Because the background frequency is changing in 2027, the access to information will get less. What that looks like exactly, I don't know. Also linked to that change in the background frequency, we used to be able to plan everything, right? Everything's planned and we're thinking ahead. We're thinking ahead as to what we do in 5 years' time, the typical 5-year plan. That's not how it's going to work anymore. Planning is not going to be such a big thing anymore. It's about waking up. And we already have that language around us. It's been around us for the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years. It's all about waking up. We have the potential to awaken to our own sovereignty, the potential to awaken to our own inner truth and who we are. There's going to be a lot of busyness for the sake of being busy. There's going to be a lot of generator life force. And with generator, I mean an energy that just always is there. Just, it can be like an engine of a car that's in neutral, but it's running. Even if it's not going anywhere, it's running. That kind of energy is going to be in the background frequency. We are also moving from this sense of tribe to a sense of the individual. So the tribe, for centuries, the tribe would wear the same things and eat the same things and have their rules. And we already know this is breaking down. There's so many people breaking away from the tribe, not following just obvious things like the marriage used to be a very firm institution. There's so many people divorced now, it's not a big deal. We're looking for our inner truth. We're not following the rules of the tribe anymore. We're not eating anymore all at the same time or all in the family eating the same thing. It used to be that you eat what comes onto the table, and that was just in the background frequency. That's not happening anymore. And it's okay that it's not happening anymore, and we have to move along with these changes. One of the things that the tribe has was a firm handle on religion. We all believe in the same gods. That's not happening anymore. Also, the system of guilt that is built into the tribe is not going to work anymore. Sacrifice is not going to work in the same way anymore. I sacrifice myself for the tribe. No, No, it's about moving to our individuality. And it's about global consciousness also. So this global consciousness and individual consciousness at the same time is going to enable moving away from fundamentalism in religions. We've seen a lot of fundamentalism in the last 20, 30, 40 years, and that's the buildup for that to fall apart. Also, something that's happening on the consciousness level, and this is, I think, extremely helpful to know, is that there's a moodiness in the background frequency, right? And this is not good or bad, it's there. So if you used to be a person who was not moody at all, and all of a sudden you're now going through mood swings, know that that is not something to worry about. Being melancholy is not something to be worried about, but something to know how to work through. So we're seeing a lot of suicides these days because people feel like they just can't get a handle on their life. Well, what do we do when we're melancholy? We can use melancholy to be creative. That's what it's there for. It's also there for us to become more contemplative. And the other thing that we can do, like the information that is so available to us at the moment, we can up our frequencies. We can up our frequencies to a level where we are fully in control of that background frequency moodiness, and we are at a level where that doesn't hit us anymore, where we are in a state of love and gratitude. It means it's really worth working on it so that we feel really good about life. What will also be very important is that we have direct contact amongst each other. So even though the tribe will not be the same because it cannot impose its rules on the group, we will still be in connection with each other, and we will still be living in groups. Now, the changes on the level of emotions and sexuality, the emotional wave is going to disappear as it is in the personal design of the children that are coming in. And what we know as our emotions that we feel in our body is going to change into an awareness center. So it started out a few hundred years ago with, I am angry, I am sad. And now we're moving into that awareness of, no, it's not me who's angry. I am feeling anger that's moving through my body, but it's not who I am. And this makes the emotional center an awareness center. So I am feeling something. Oh, I am feeling anger. Oh, that means I want to change something. It means I can change something. Or, oh, I'm feeling sad now. That means I can let go of something. Or, oh, I'm feeling fear. There's something coming that I don't know what it is. So that's the awareness that is in the process of happening in these years. Then for a mutation, we need a huge population. So us transitional beings, we needed all this love, and we needed all this free love and sexuality to produce a lot of beings. You know, the hippie time of free love, and the possibly 8 billion people on Earth we don't need them afterwards anymore. Once this has all gone through, in 1,000 years, we don't need that type of population anymore. And so sexuality is going to be very, very different. We used to connect through reproduction. And the new rave children, they will connect with each other through shared consciousness. Now, I know you talked on one of the calls about the telepathy tapes. If you haven't watched them, you have to watch them. And it talks about these autistic children connecting on a consciousness level. And autistic children are children who are, like us, a forerunner of the rave children. And when I heard about the telepathy tapes, when I listened to them, I was just over the moon that this is happening, because this was one of the big concerns of Ra Uru Hu, that these children that are going to come into the world as raves are going to seem to us, especially to the parents, like something very strange, something that we don't know who or what it is and how to work with them. So having this knowledge that these children are connecting on a consciousness level and actually have a great life is really, really good news. And the autistic children are not raves. They are also a precursor, a run-up to the raves. So the new children, the raves, their consciousness will be lost in what we call a penta, a group of 3 to 5 people. That's a penta. Any group of 3 to 5 people is a penta. So you put these children together in such a group, 3 to 5 of them, and they will be perfectly operational. In fact, they will be a very, very strong force. And what they will need is to live together, eat together, be together. So it is really important for those families who will be producing the new raves to work out how to put the children into a space where they can live together so that they can be operational. So what we used to do is the background frequency was all about finding a loyal partner. It was all about loyalty and honor and obedience and duty. It was all about building a community. But that bargain will not be there anymore, not between partners or governments or people. And the imperative will be, so for us as human beings, 9-centered human beings, there will be an imperative to reproduce with the new children. What Ra said is that if we want to look after our own species, we will have to reproduce within our own 9-centered transitional human being. And he says our task is to look after ourselves, but also to support the raves that are coming in, because they will need help. And just the knowledge that we are 2 different species, you could compare it to 2 kinds of dogs, a husky and a German shepherd, maybe. So we can reproduce together, but it doesn't allow us to reproduce our own species. So what used to happen is that we were attracted to a partner who is not like us. And if somebody is not like us, they condition us, they influence us, they imprint us. If we are together with somebody who is like us, there is not that much imprinting. And this will change. We will not be attracted to those who are not like us. We will be attracted to those who are like us. that whole pressure of flirting and marrying is gone. And maybe you've also observed that there used to be this, you'd see people flirting on the streets and holding hands. You don't see that the way you used to. So what's happening is that in the grand scheme of things, the wheels are turning. The calendar as we know it is changing. And you can think of it of the way the Mayans think of cogwheels. You can think of it as the whole galaxy, possibly the whole universe, I don't know. The way it's influencing each other is shifting, is turning. The fates are turning, our destiny is changing. The forces, the gods, the program, the simulation, whatever you want to call it, is changing. And we all have to deal with it, may deal with it. And the way Ra would talk about it is he would say, the door closes and another door opens. What was is going to move into the past, and what's coming is where we're heading. So what are these new children going to be like? What was important to Ra is that we know who the first parents are. So these first parents came into the world between September 17th, 2005, and the end of January 2006. These are going to be the first parents who will give birth to raves. Not all of them will, and not all children will be raves, but some of them will. And they need support. They need this knowledge. They need to know what to do. So if you know anybody who was born in those times, this is your opportunity to support them and help them. So what they may look to us like they're disabled, but again, think of the telepathy tapes. They may seem to be severely autistic, but remember they're not. They just function differently. They will have issues with muscle function, with vision, with acoustics. They may be inarticulate. They don't need to be articulate because they'll be telepathic. They'll be sharing consciousness. Their way of being will be nonverbal, non-logical, non-strategic. They will be operating on downloads, telepathy, and shared consciousness. They will have a different relation to reality. They will not be interested in what we know as the rat race. They will not be interested in being special. They will be interested in giving, in being loving, in operating together through consciousness, not through bargains. And it'll be so interesting to see how this all plays out. Ra says there will be a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, I think I've spoken about all of that. So we said that all we need to look at is strategy and inner authority. So there's a strategy, there's 4 strategies. There's the strategy to respond, which is a generator. It'll say generator or manifesting generator up there. Then there's the strategy of waiting for the invitation. That's for projectors. There's the strategy to inform and the strategy to wait a lunar cycle. And living according to our strategy is something we need to learn. It doesn't necessarily happen overnight, especially if you've been trained to be different than the way you're supposed to operate. So if you're a washing machine and you're operating as a fridge, it's just not going to work very well. You're not going to be very healthy and not very intelligent and just not comfortable. So it's important to know how to operate according to your personal strategy. And then once you operate according to your personal strategy, then you will still need to take a decision. And that's your inner authority. So your decision will not be to call up the doctor and say, what do I do? I've got something here or there, or ask the government what to do about this or that, or the police or so on. You're going to just operate according to your inner authority. And in that way, you will thrive and you will enjoy life. So let's see, how do we do this? Yes, let's go here. The strategies. So the strategies are linked to your auras. Your auras are different. Most of us are generators or manifesting generators, and we have this all enveloping auric field. And we are really the people, the generators, the people who have continuous energy. It makes us extremely attractive because we have that energy, right? It's a sacral energy, it's a reproduction energy, it's a creation energy, it's a building energy. And what we need to know is that if we are a generator, a manifesting generator, our operation mode is to respond. Many of us want to be manifestors and we decide, oh, I need to do that, or I need to do this, and I want to be an astronaut and so on. But we have to just sit back, relax, and wait until an offer comes in, until somebody is talking to us, somebody is calling us. And it's not for us to go out into the world and do, it's for us to wait and then respond. And it could be as simple and as easy as the socks are lying on the ground and the socks are screaming at me, please pick me up. But it could also be that those socks are not screaming at me at all. And I just walk past them. So wait until they are actually screaming at you, saying, I want to be picked up. Could be an email that's coming in. It could be, if we do wait, then there's that space for these things to come in and for us to then say yes or no. Now, how do we know whether we actually waited for something to respond to? Well, if we're frustrated, we didn't follow our strategy and authority. If we feel satisfied, even if it doesn't look like success, even if it's not going to work out, we start a project, it's not going to work out. If we're satisfied, it's perfectly fine. We're all right. We did well. We took the right decision. But if we're frustrated, we did not take the right decision for ourselves, our health, our brain. So as a generator, what's important for you is to get questions that you can answer with yes or no. We'll go into that a little later. The projectors, that's roughly about 20% of humanity. They are basically advisors. They're not here to do hard work. Of course they can work, but they're not excited about work. They don't get satisfaction for doing work. They are what we call non-energy type, and they don't have that energy. They always have to look at whether, do I have enough energy to do this, or do I not have enough energy? And a projector does not feel comfortable when they get a direct question. They need an invitation. Now, when I see couples where one person is a projector and one person is a generator, or the child is a projector and the parent is a generator, it is so difficult to get the hang of the difference between an invitation and a yes/no question. So let's look at this just a little bit more. When I'm a generator, when I really want a correct, truthful answer with the possibility of getting a yes from a projector, I will think about this in my mind and formulate the invitation, making sure that I cannot put a question mark at the end of the sentence. So I'm having a party next weekend. If you'd like to, you are most welcome to come along. That is an invitation. If I said, do you want to come along to the party next weekend? I can put a question mark at the end. That doesn't work. The projector will go, that's too close to me. That's too direct. I don't have the space to give an answer. And many projectors have just learned to say no or to grumble. You won't get a, oh, yes, when you pose a question, which you as a generator, you think it is an invitation, but it's not. Remember, if you're talking to a projector, you need to give him complete freedom with the wording such that you cannot put a question mark at the end. It's extraordinary, the difference in relationships that happen. For the projector, it can be a long wait until you get a true invitation. And it's worth it. It's worth it because it's the difference between success and bitterness. If you're a projector, you're all about success. You want to have an impact. You want to be able to advise. You enjoy advising people, and you are very good at advising people. But if people get advice and they're not ready for it, it's not going to work well, and you're going to end up in bitterness. So as a projector, you need to train the people around you what it is to give you an invitation. And as a projector, if you want to support the generators in your life, learn to speak direct questions. And the question is not, do you want to eat spaghetti or pizza? Because there's no yes, that's not a yes/no question. That's an either/or question. That's a multiple choice question. You have to have first ask, do you want spaghetti? The answer may be yes, no, or maybe. Then you ask the next question, do you want pizza? And then you'll get a yes, no, or a maybe. If it's always a maybe, you may need to find questions for a different way of questioning. But it's extremely helpful for the generator to get such questions. It's the generator's way of being able to figure out what the right decision is for them. And then we have about 10% of the population, they're manifestors. And they are the only people who can decide from within themselves. They are the ones who just get up and do. They don't need to ask anybody for permission or don't need to wait for a response. They don't need to wait for an invitation. They just feel it within their body. And they just get that urge that they want to go out into the garden and take care of the garden. They just get that urge that they need to get into the car and drive away. So Rao Rahu was a manifestor. And that's how he got into this whole thing. He one day, he was a CEO with lots of money and flashy cars and so on. And he stopped his car. The engine was still running. He left the key in there. He walked into the store to get his newspaper. And as a true manifestor, he just followed his body that took him out the back door, got on a train, and through a myriad of ways ended up on an island in the Mediterranean. And this all started in Canada. So the manifestor does not want any questions at all. Never ask the manifestor a question. what the manifestor is all about is about information. So when you talk to a manifestor, and it's really important to you, make sure you give them information. I'm having a party next weekend. That's information. I want to go to the cinema tomorrow. That's information. We really should be going to visit Aunt so-and-so. That's information. What the manifestor will do, this will be stored somewhere in their aura. And at some point, they go, oh, there's this information. Oh, what am I going to do with it? So for the manifestor, the red flag is anger. The manifestor will get quite angry if you ask them questions. But all the manifestor wants is peace. They really yearn for peace. And they expect you to just go ahead and do what you want because they're just doing what they want. They don't understand that you need questions so that you can operate as a generator, or that you need an invitation so that you can operate as a projector. They just think, you know, I do what I want, you do what you want. It's quite, I spent quite some time with manifestors. It's quite extraordinary because it gave me the freedom to do exactly what I want. I didn't need to, you know, look after anybody else or work as a team as I would as a generator, which I would enjoy going all together doing something. So I realized, yeah, it's perfectly okay if I just go ahead and do what I want. I don't have to check in with anybody else to see if that's okay. Now, the trick for the manifestor is, because the manifestor just gets up and does what they want, everybody is on edge around that energy. It's like, you know, get out of my way, I'm doing what I'm doing. So everybody being on edge, if you want peace as a manifestor, you have to inform the others as they have to inform you. You have to inform them. So if you really learn, and also teach your children if they're manifestors, teach them that they should inform you, that they'll have peace if they start informing their environment about what they're doing. Now, manifestors have been telling me that it's quite difficult because they don't know what they're going to do. All of a sudden, they're out in the garden pulling weeds. They didn't know as they were walking out the door that that's what they were going to do. But if at all possible, it's really great for the manifestor to say, I'm just going into the kitchen. I'm just going to go have a shower. I'm going to do the laundry. I'm going to go to work. Whatever it is, just send out information. And then the fourth type is the reflector. And the reflector is, because there's very few reflectors, roughly about 1% in the population, they have not been studied very much. But my human design buddy, Lawrence, is a reflector. I'm a generator, very, very different type. What the reflectors are evaluators. They're really, really good at evaluating a situation in a complex group. It can be a group of 100 people, it can be a small group, it can be a family group. They'll sit there and they'll have an overview of everything, and they'll be able to say, oh, this happened there, that happened there, and this happened there. With that information, another person would be able to really work with that. So reflectors need to be initiated into being that person who will whisper into my ear what's going on. They're extremely valuable, for example, in business situations. So sometimes reflectors are paid for being there seemingly without doing something, but they will be able to pick out what's working and what's not working. They have to wait for a whole lunar cycle. They really work with the lunar cycle. And some reflectors tell me that they're not actually tuned into the moon, but what is true for all of them is that they they don't work well under pressure. There's just no energy there. And pressuring them doesn't work. Pressuring a generator out does work. Pressuring a reflector absolutely does not work. They need time. It takes them a long time to take any kind of decision. And their red flag is disappointment. If they're disappointed, they may not have waited until they knew what decision to take. If they're surprised, good or bad, who knows, but if they're surprised, then they know they operated according to their strategy and their authority. And how to work with reflectors is to initiate them into something. Initiation could be, I've got this job here for you. I know you're capable of doing this. Yeah, it could be a question, would you like to do it? It could be an invitation. You're most welcome to do this if you want to. But an initiation into something new that creates surprise. So we've got the strategies. That's going into more detail. Let's go into the inner authority. And the inner authority is where you liberate your mind, because your mind is not your authority. We've been taught now for centuries that we are to operate strategically. The mind is our authority. We have to think logically. And that's not a good way of taking decisions. That's more of a way of creating frustration, anger, disappointment, and bitterness. So there's several inner authorities. The most common one is the solar plexus, or the emotional wave. Now, this did not exist. This has come into being through the transitional human being, through us, through the last few hundred years. There's an emotional wave. There's always emotions that we feel. That wasn't there before 1781. And because the wave goes up and down, we do not have an answer in the now. So you might remember all these teachings that were true for centuries. Be in the now. It doesn't work for people with a solar plexus inner authority, an emotional inner authority. We have to wait. We might go, oh, yes, I want to do that. Then it'll be, oh, no, but I can't do this and that. And what if this? And the mind starts chattering and spinning, and you can just observe the mind talking and talking and talking, and you can feel the emotions going up and down. And you've got to wait until the chatter stops, till the emotions are calm like a lake, and then take the decision, and it'll be right. And there will be no frustration, no anger, no bitterness. Then there is the sacral authority. And the sacral authority, if you have sacral authority, that's in the now. That's an authority that was already there centuries ago. And what you do is you do get that yes, no question, and your body will respond to that. Your body will go, mm-hmm, or mm-mm. It doesn't need a word. It doesn't need yes. It doesn't need no. It could be yes or no. But yes or no are words that come from the mind. It's the body that goes forward. The eyes get big with excitement, or the body goes backwards and gets tight, and the face gets scrunchy. So it's the body that gives the answer. And it could be that the answer today, do you want to buy this house? The answer today might be yes, tomorrow it might be no. So you've got to look for some consistency. But it's not emotional. It's just a different just keeping on letting people in here, a different state. Then there's the people who are splenic. So if your inner authority is splenic, then that's one of the oldest ways of taking decisions. It's the intuition. It's before we had emotional awareness, which is what we're working on now, and before we had self-awareness, we had splenic awareness, which was intuition. You can liken it to how a cow doesn't have to think about where it's going to go and eat. It just eats its grass wherever it happens to be and feels its way and moves along. It doesn't think. So that's what the splenic authority is. It's quite amazing. It's maybe a way of describing it is, I used to take people on dog sled rides, and you're on these dog sleds with hunters above the Arctic Circle, and you're relying on these dogs, and the dogs have that instinct to know when to stop. Right? When the ice is not thick enough, they will stop. When there's a polar bear in the vicinity, they will announce that. And that's, the splenic can really save you from death. It's like a nudge out of nowhere, and it only comes once, and you've got to follow it in that moment. And one of the people I know who's got splenic authority, she told me this experience where she was a teacher in the graduating class. She took the graduating class on a trip to Greece, and on that trip to Greece, it was the last evening. They were supposed to take the boat back to Athens from that island, and she just knew she can't. She didn't have a good reason. She just knew she can't take that class on that trip back to Athens that evening. And so she made up excuses because, of course, the box office, they wouldn't accept intuition as a good reason for returning the tickets. And of course, the hotel wasn't booked anymore, so they had to stay up all night, and the kids had lots of fun in the disco, staying up all night. They got on the boat next morning, and they all fell asleep on the boat, on the deck, turned off their cell phones. And when the first person woke up, turned on the cell phone, there was this whole thing, all the parents in hugely excited, wondering whether they were still alive, because the boat that had left the evening before had sunk and everybody was dead. So that's the spleen. And I've heard other stories from people with splenic awareness. They just feel they need to go and check the left front tire, and they're on a safari. The car is full of kids and family, and they check it. Had they not checked that front tire, they most likely would have had a deathly accident. It doesn't always have to be so dramatic. It can be just that sense of, I need to turn right here. And then you're walking towards something that you need in your experience. Then we have the lunar inner authority, and that's for reflectors only. It's wait a long time until you know. And you might worry about, will it still be there for me if I wait? And if it is for you, it will still be there for you. Ra used to say, wait a full lunar cycle, 28 days. The experience that reflectors are having now is, when they're really in tune with it, they'll know when they know. It's like the solar plexus emotional wave. For that wave, we say, sleep on it. Get used to saying to people, I'll tell you when I know. I'll sleep on it, and I'll let you know in a few days when I'm sure. Get used to saying that. And the emotional wave can be an hour, it can be a day, it can be 2 days, it can be a week, it can be months. Just learn to observe and ride that wave. For the lunar reflectors, it's not emotional, it's something in the ethers. Then we have a few very, very rare ones. We have the ego manifested ones. They have to listen to their own voice. And it's important for them that they do not script what they're going to say. They have to just talk, talk, talk. And whatever comes out of their voice, through their voice box, is what they need to listen to. And it's this unfiltered articulation that will speak your truth. Your voice is what informs you. Your voice initiates and runs your life. It's not thinking, it's just what comes out of here. Then we've got the ego projected. And the ego projected is extremely rare also. It's got to do with the ego in this sense is willpower. So do I want to do this? Is connected to what is in it for me. Is this a goal that I want to proceed with? Is this a goal that I want? Do I want this? Do I have the will to do it? Do I have the will to see it through? Because if you say yes to the wrong thing, you won't have the energy to see it through. Then we've got the self-projected. These people need to receive an invitation to speak. And then they need to listen to what they're saying. They need to listen to what their reaction is to that invitation in the moment. And again, it's about trusting your voice, expressing. And here it's the self-projected is about their own identity. Are you expressing who you are? Are you expressing your inner truth? And then the last ones are the mental projected. And they need to feel the environment. So if they're applying for a new job, they have to go and feel the environment of that new job. If they are wanting to go on vacation somewhere, actually the best would be that they go and feel that environment before they say yes to going on that vacation. Of course, you can't always do it that way. And what they need, the mental projected, is also they need to speak into the aura of someone else. And while they're speaking into this aura of someone else, they need to also listen to themselves. So what's important, if you're providing your aura for a mental projected person, is that you don't give any advice. You don't say anything. You don't offer any feedback. You just allow them to speak into your aura and them to make sense of what they're speaking. They'll get it eventually. They'll get what they need to do. They do not need advice, feedback, discussions, nothing like that. This is quite frustrating for many mental projected authorities because we are, especially generators, something comes towards the generator responds automatically. If you know that you're providing your aura for a mental projected person, zip up. What else do we have? Yes, that's pretty much everything you need to know. Here, this is just a little bit of extra. We are here to support others. We're here to support the rave children that are coming in, and we are here to support those who are having difficulties in the transition. And it is because it is easier for some people than for others. If you are well practiced in strategy and authority, of course, it is really helpful if you're supporting others and spreading this knowledge. If you have a 6 in your profile and the profile is up here, if either of these numbers is a 6, then you are made for the changing of what's coming. You are a role model and you need to live your own, you're made to live your own inner authority. If these 4 arrows are pointing to the right. You are more, you have a broader awareness, and you're less strategic and less logical. So again, you've got something that speaks for you being here to help this transition. Then down here we've got the incarnation cross. If your incarnation cross is the sleeping phoenix, the vessel of love, the sphinx, or the cause of penetration, again, adaptation will be easier for you, and you're here to help the others. If you have any of these gates, that's supportive. If you are a mental projector with the channel 2324, that's here in the middle, again, you're here to help. If you have the channel 2838, you're here to help. Solutions, yes, of course. Know and operate according to strategy and authority. Don't be scared. Thrive. Look forward to it. Be ecstatic. Move into faith and operate correctly. And really trust in yourself. The more you are correct, the more you practice operating according to strategy and authority, the more you will trust this way of taking decisions and this way of living. I fear no evil, Psalm 23. Yes, and help others take decisions that are correct for them. Know what they are in human design, and help them take their correct decisions. Form pentas, that's groups of 3 to 5, come together. Know that the program is not evil. I fear no evil. The program is not evil. It terminates humans to bring something new forth. It's about mutation. And we are here to witness this mutation. We are here at this extraordinary time to witness the changing of the calendar. We're here to watch the movie. We're not here to save the world. We don't have to struggle against anything. We are here to be the witness. Again, if the turning of the wheel is right for those who are operating correctly, and it is what the nine-centered being needs. We need the change, and what we are here to do. Again, collect truth, knowledge, and wisdom now. Learn to connect through telepathy, learn to connect through downloads, get downloads, really move into that. Do not be concerned with what is going on around you, but with yourself being aligned to authority and strategy. You don't have to worry about the politics. You don't have to worry about all that fear that's out there. That's absolutely not healthy. Really work on strategy and authority. What we really don't want is to be homogenized. That's not what's meant to happen. Yes, and differentiate, group with humans, and take care of the raves. It's again what the ancient ones said, stay in your heart and all will be well. And then all you have to do is relax and enjoy the ride. Some of the information is quite extraordinary and really challenging for us to know, so he didn't speak about it much. That package that came to him, and I'm kind of, yeah, do I say it or do I not say it? And the package that came to him did not come from an ET. It came from a supernova explosion. The astronomers all know there was a big, very important supernova explosion that actually eventually led to Nobel Prize for astronomers, which is quite unusual. that supernova explosion, when that exploded, that package of information that came from there is what Ra received. So it's a huge package of information that just came into his beingness. About it, the way I think about it, Pamela, is that the information about 7 chakras has been there for many, many years. And then we've got the information about the Kabbalah. We have the Book of Changes, the I Ching. All of these are part and parcel woven into the human design. But it's not like he sat down and thought about it. He would never have been able to do that. It's so complex. These people got those bits of information that eons ago, whenever that came in, the I Ching, the Book of Changes, or the Kabbalah, all that information probably came in a similar way as a package to some consciousness that was able to actually hold it and then disseminate it. Om Shanti, Om Shanti. It happened on that day. You took out your colors and your ink and your clay. You painted a picture, formed an image of the one you thought you were. And I was there, the shining Lamar.